Hey, what's up everybody? TechChucker here, and today I've got a review of my very first McFarlane Toys action figure, and it is the Teen Titans DC Multiverse CYBORG. Now, I absolutely love the Teen Titans Go show. I haven't watched a whole lot of just the Teen Titans show, but I am super excited to go and start watching this show. And this CYBORG figure, we're going to find out if it is worth it to buy this thing, especially if it's your first foray into McFarlane Toys. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and crack this thing open. Hey, we've already done that. Let's just go ahead and take a closer look. Okay, so my first impression out of the box is this thing aesthetically looks really nice, and it definitely looks like the character from the show, which is awesome. Some of the things that I really like the most are these plastic pieces that are translucent. They have a bit of a bluish tinge to them that are covering the underneath portion, and you can see there are little bits of detail that are sculpted into those shoulder pieces. That is a really nice touch. I really like that. But what you can see that I can't stand is this really big gap from the articulation. That is really disappointing. I absolutely hate that look. It just looks terrible to me. Now, the rest of the figure is awesome. I love that these little translucent pieces are strewn throughout the figure. That looks awesome. His head sculpt looks amazing, and I love that they have the transparent piece also on his head, wrapping his skull around. That is a really nice touch. The flat kind of matte white is awesome. Same with the black on the legs or the thighs. That all is really nice. The joints for the wrists, I'm a little concerned. They're a little bit suspect just because they are really big, and I'm a little bit worried that, not knowing, the characteristics of how McFarlane's plastic works, these are really tight. And so my fear is that if you start reefing on these too much, that these joints will pop apart. And so that's one thing that I'm concerned about. The other thing is, and I wasn't going to talk about this just yet, but it popped off. These are, in my opinion, really poorly designed joints for the shoulders. This ball, way too small. This ball should be probably twice the size and the arm isn't intended to come off ever. So why it's such a small ball, I don't get. I don't understand that piece. But sculpt-wise, paint-wise, it's very, very clean. Just know, as you start touching this, you may want to wash your hands before you start playing with this thing, because it's white. Your fingers are going to leave a bunch of smudges, and you want this white to stay white. This thing is really, really well done. It has a very nice cartoon look and feel to it. So in that respect, paint and sculpt-wise, it's clean. It looks like the character, so very well done. Now, the scale for McFarlane seems to be 7 inches. Let's just see how tall CYBORG is. He's about 7, almost 7¼ inches, so that's pretty well spot on. He should be just a hair taller than 7 inches, which I think would kind of constitute roughly 6 feet. And so he's not going to scale that well with your Marvel Legends, but it's not that far off that you could put them next to each other if you wanted to do some sort of weird crossover for whatever reason. So I am very pleased with this scale. Now, the articulation on here is probably the weakest portion. It's not amazing by any means. I mean, it's decent, but and I would say it's better than the old Multiverse from Mattel. His head is on a ball peg, and he can't really look up. That's the most disappointing piece to me. He can look down a decent amount. That's not really an issue. He can look side to side. That also is good. And then there is, there's a decent amount of tilt, which, kind of makes up for the lack of being able to look up. But still, I wish that he could have looked up. Down in the shoulders, he has that ball joint, and again, this one's tight, this one is not, so I think that's more of a QC issue. He can get his arm out that far, which is pretty good. He can swivel it all the way around, which is great. There is no butterfly, which I've noticed the majority of the McFarlane figures have butterfly joints. He would have done really, really well to have a butterfly, because he can't get his hands any closer than that, which is a bummer. And that means that he's probably not going to be able to get into as many dynamic poses as you'd like. I don't believe he has a, there's sort of a, I don't know if that's meant to be a joint or if that's just the way that it's put together. It kind of wobbles as a bicep swivel, but not really a whole heck of a lot. This line is just a sculpted line. It's not a joint line. In the elbows, he looks to have a single joint, and that's as much as she wrote. That's not going to go very far. That is also disappointing. I mentioned before the ball hinge in the wrist, and I definitely appreciate the ball hinge. I'm just a little concerned about the plastic is all, but he's got good range of motion with that, so that's a great choice using that ball hinge. In the torso, he has an upper torso joint. Not sure if that's a double ball or just a single ball, but with that and the waist, he's not really able to do a whole heck of a lot of forward crunch. He can really do a great back arch, which is awesome. That I like. There is a big gap, which is ugly, but you know, I'll take the ugliness for the articulation. He can do some really good side to side motion. That side crunch is awesome. So what you lose in the front ab crunch, you gain in side to side, which is maybe better than just the front ab crunch. He is able to swivel at both of these joints, which is good. That's, you know, no issues there. Down in the hips, he's got what looks to be T-jointed ball. Well, they're not really balls, they're hinges. And they're actually not too bad. They are ratcheted. So that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. He's able to kick forward about that far. That's not too shabby. And, you know, it could be better. And then kicking back is pretty limited. There is just a little bit of wobble for a thigh swivel. Not a whole lot there. There is a double jointed knee joint here, and that goes pretty far. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. There is no upper shin swivel. There is no real thigh swivel either. And then down in the ankles, he has those same ball hinges. And these I like. I like these a lot, but they are a little tight. He can get his foot back that far. He can get his foot forward that much, but the sculpt does kind of get in the way of it going a little bit further. And then because it's a ball hinge, you can adjust it to get that ankle pivot even more, and you know, it goes quite a bit. You just have to kind of work it to be able to get it to go in a much more you know, natural position. And then lastly, he has a toe hinge as well. It looks really bad when you use it, but it is fairly functional. So overall, articulation on this is really well done. Biggest issue is this stupid arm keeps popping off. As far as the accessories that he comes with, it is very sparse. First thing, he comes with this little display stand. I'm going to just be honest with you. I'm not going to do anything with this. I'm probably never even going to pull it off of this backer. It's going to stay this way forever. I don't need these little stands. It looks like McFarlane is kind of obsessed with these little stands. I don't know about you guys, but when I display my figures, I like to display them in a fairly dynamic pose if I can. And I don't want all these dumb little discs laying around in my display because it just kills the display. It kills the feeling of a scene. So I would rather get a weapon, something else, or heck, you know what? Don't even waste the plastic. And then we also get this little playing card, which again, I don't care about playing cards. I don't know what Todd McFarlane's deal is. Maybe I'm the one that's out of touch, but it really feels as though he's still living in the 80s, thinking that every adult collector still wants all of these little gimmicky things. And for me, playing cards, it's just a gimmick. I'm not going to collect them. I'm not going to trade them with my friends. It's just, I don't know. It's neat, but I have no interest in it. It's going to stay on the backer card until forever. The one and only accessory that I actually do like a lot is this guy, and this is his power blaster effect. Now, we're all just going to pretend that we don't all have a thought about what this thing looks like. We're not going to mention it. We're not going to bring it up. We're not going to say anything. We're not going to giggle. We're not going to do anything like that. We're just going to ignore what we might think this thing looks like. We're going to talk about how cool it is. This thing is pretty darn amazing. I love it. It's got that translucent blue, which is awesome. It's got this little bit of extra, you can see maybe a little bit of blast effect, which is awesome. And then you can see it is hooked to what is his hand that has opened up. And this just goes on here. And this is where I get a little worried. Whoa. Well, that actually makes it a little easier. This is where I get a little bit worried playing around with this. And that's because this is very, very tight, this joint. And it's a really big, girthy, did I say girthy? Yeah, I said girthy. A big peg. And because the way that this is designed, technically only half of this peg is connected to anything. So it only has half the strength. So you might want to heat this up as you try to attach this thing. Now I got mine and it's working pretty good. So the fact that we have the ball hinge is extraordinarily important to be able to put this thing on here. And this effect is so cool. I absolutely love this little effect. It looks amazing, minus the jokes. I mean, it's a great effect. And so the fact that this is the only accessory I'm okay with. Yes, I would have loved to have had an alternate head where maybe he's yelling, or maybe an actual fist hand for both hands, a gripping hand for both hands. Now, he doesn't have any other accessories to be able to, do anything with that, but whatever. Overall, I'm super pleased with this figure. I am really, really excited and very much so hoping that McFarlane will do the rest of the characters. First ones that I want are Robin and Beast Boy, but I want them all. So, Todd McFarlane, I know that I just ripped you on some of the things, but please, please give us the rest of the characters for this show, and then move on to Teen Titans Go, because I absolutely will buy every single one of these things. You did a great job with this figure overall. There you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, hit that like button, hit the bell notification, and the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next episode.